Well, today's the day we do the maiden flight session on the Hobby King Hawker Hurricane. There were a couple of things about this plane when I was getting it ready for its first launch that were a real head scratcher for me. And one of the things is the spinner assembly, the prop and spinner assembly they have on here. And I want to thank the person who informed me about this, because I was thinking, well, how do you get this motor out? All right, so there was a smaller hole here. I've enlarged it and put a nose ballast weight in it. But under that nose ballast weight in this hole underneath the front of the nose, there's a set screw that holds the motor in the mount. So you have to take that set screw out in order to pull the motor out of the mount, so you can get to the 3 screws on the back of the prop assembly in order for you to get the spinner off, so that you can actually remove the prop assembly from the shaft and then remove the screws to hold in the individual blades. I don't know who came up with that design idea, but that's pretty darn bad. So after doing that and finally getting the prop assembly off and the spinner, I thought, I'm not going through that again. So I shaved the nose of the spinner off of it and then cleaned up the edges. What they could have done, and what they should have done, was just make the tip of the nose snap on, so that you could just take a screwdriver, snap it off, get to the lock screw, the lock nut, hold in the prop assembly on the shaft, remove that, remove the washer, then you can pull the whole spinner and prop assembly off the motor without having to remove the motor, which is why I did that, and that's the way I'm going to do it from now on. I might see if I can glue a couple of plastic tabs on that piece of the spinner that I cut off. I still have it, so that I can just snap it in there so it looks good. But anyway, that was a head scratcher. Why on earth that you would have a convoluted system like that just to replace a prop is beyond me. The other thing that was a real head scratcher, and this plane comes with the ORX, the Hobby King ORX, Orange RX flight controller stabilizer. Well, they mounted it underneath the little cutout in the plywood shelf in here. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's a good place for it. But they mounted it upside down. And they programmed it so it has to be mounted upside down. Because I went ahead and I pulled the wing back off of it, because you can't see the status, you can't see the LEDs when it's mounted upside down. So I didn't realize that they programmed it that way. So I went ahead and took the wing off. I removed the zip ties that were holding it on there, along with some glue that they had on the edges of it. I removed those, removed the ORX gyro, flipped it around, remounted it, thinking that I could recalibrate it and it would work fine, you know, whether it was inverted or right side up. Well, apparently that's not the case, because I could not get it to work properly mounted right side up. It's like they programmed it so it could only work properly upside down. But there was plenty of room there in the same location that they mounted it, that they could have mounted it right side up so you could see the LED status on the gyro. So I have no idea why they mounted it upside down. So I went ahead and I removed the ORX gyro and I replaced it with a RadioLink Byme-A gyro. And I'll put a picture up on the screen right now so you can see it. It's about the same size as the ORX gyro is. It's mounted in the exact same location that the ORX gyro was mounted in, and I was able to mount it right side up just fine. So, Hobby King, why are you mounting the gyro upside down when it doesn't need to be? Okay, so that was a real head scratcher. All right, so anyway, we're going to have little wind out there today. At least we're supposed to have little wind. We were supposed to have little wind. It wasn't bad. But the sky is just as slate gray as it can be. Oh, the other problem that I ran into, I had originally put in one of my RadioMaster R81 SBUS receivers, has diversity antennas. Everything was working fine. I went out to do the range test, and it failed the range test. So I was like, what? I got about 40 feet away, put it in range mode, completely lost signal. So luckily I had a spare RadioLink R8FM, it's a single antenna, SBUS PPM receiver, but I've used it in I've used one in my A1 Skyraider. I've got one in the RadioLink A560 3D trainer. Never had a problem with it. So I put it in here, set it up, made sure failsafe was working, took it out, did the range test, worked just fine. So I have had 6 of those RadioMaster R81 SBUS receivers. I bought 6 of them. 2 of them so far have been bad. I don't think I'm going to be buying any more of the RadioMaster R81 receivers. So, but the RadioLink R8FM SBUS PPM receivers have worked just fine, flawlessly for me. This will be the 3rd plane I put one in. I did put a nose weight in here because I could not get this neutrally balanced at even 50 millimeters back. Their specification along the straight edge, lead edge of the wing near the fuselage, is 45 to 50 millimeters back from the lead edge. Well, I couldn't even get it, I couldn't get a neutral balance at even 50 millimeters back, and I would have preferred to have it at 45 millimeters. So I put 7.3 grams of nose ballast weight in this plane that just does allow me to get a neutral balance at 50 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. So anyway, I've got 2 flights that I'm going to show you. See you out there.
Okay, launching. Okay, let's see how much power we've got. That wasn't very good. That wasn't a very good demonstration of power. Let's try that again. That was a big, huge loop. I don't think my 950, my 3S 950s are supplying as much amps as my little 800s are. It's got some speed to it. Alright, let's try to roll to the left. Not bad. One thing I was wondering about was right angle. Let's try it to the right. Oh, that's not bad. That's full stick deflection left and right. That was a pretty crisp roll rate. So the rolls look good. Plenty of power for big loops. I think this is my 3rd flight, and my 800s were performing, woo, that was a big loop. My 800s are performing a lot better than my 950s. Of course, I think maybe my 800s might actually be older lipos than these 950s, but I don't know, guys. I think that it actually needs a little bit more nose weight on it. I've got 7.3 grams of nose weight in it, and it still feels a little tail heavy to me. Yeah? You got to use a little bit of rudder on this one in the turns to make nice coordinated turns. I noticed that, and that may be because it's a little tail heavy, I don't know, but if you just try to make the turns bank and yank, it seems to drag the tail around a little bit, you know? It's not a nice coordinated turn, so now I'm putting a little rudder into it. But it does seem like it's flying around with its tail a little low to me. So I think I'm going to put a little bit more nose weight in it. Beautiful plane. Okay. Let's see if we can bring it in and land it without destroying it. Right now I don't have anybody coming out here. I don't think. Yeah. Looks like I'm clear. Oh, kind of acting weird there. Let's try that again. It is kind of hard for me to keep orientation on this plane. Ooh, whoa, what the heck was that about? I think it just stalled on me there. Okay, launching. Yeah, got squirrely on me there, didn't it? Alright, let's see here. Alright, let's see, power. Nice big, huge, wide loop. Wow, the sun is starting to come out. That's different. Alright, let's come back through here. Check the rolls. It's kind of hard to keep orientation on this plane with this cloud cover. Not bad, you look pretty axial. I think I've got a slight tail heavy condition on this even with the nose weight I put in it. So to the right. Not bad, not a bad roll rate. But it does seem a little tail heavy. You know, it's just not as predictable as I would expect it to be. When I'm coming out of a turn or going into a turn, it either wants to drop its nose like there, or it wants to pull the nose up. Oh. But it does have nice power. Oh. I lost orientation on it there. That's never good. Yeah. Looks like a silhouette up there. So I'm maintaining a little altitude on it because you never know. Alright, let's see if we can do a split S with it. Ooh, that was a good vertical there. Yeah, get orientation on it again. It's got some speed to it. I would say this one's probably as fast as my P51. Faster than the Sky Raider, I think. But definitely gonna need some tuning and some balance on this. I am going to have to put a little more nose weight in it, I think. Alright. Let's bring it back through. See there, it dropped its nose again. Bring it back through here. And see if we can get it on the ground. Is anybody coming? Oh, go back around again. That was quite a bit of speed. It's hard to tell. when it's a silhouette over there, it's kind of hard to tell, you know, how fast my approach is. Going around again. I'm having a hard time getting it lined up here. Maybe I should come in from the other direction, since it's almost always whoa, what the heck is going on there? Did you guys see that? I'm gonna try to come in from the opposite direction. It really wagged its wings there, and it's got plenty of speed. I really think this thing is still tail heavy. Alright, let's see if we can get it on the ground. Why is it slewing like that? Huh. That is just weird, man. Alright, we'll try it again. We're run out of battery power here. I didn't think I had that much of a crosswind, but maybe I do. There. Finally got it on the ground. That was something.
Okay, so on the first flight, at the end of the first flight where I was coming in to land and I was going to overshoot, so I bailed and I gassed it up, and all of a sudden it started wagging its wings and I had to put it down in the scrub. That looked to me like it was tail heavy. You know, it wasn't moving that slowly when that happened. So I do think that it needs more nose weight on it. I am going to add enough nose weight that I can get a neutral balance on the plane at 45 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing, rather than 50 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. And I think that it will be much better behaved. The problem that I was running into, and it was a little unpredictable, sometimes I would go into a high-speed turn, and halfway through the turn it would drop the nose. And then at other times I would be coming out of a turn, and all of a sudden it would kick the nose up. So, and the fact that I would go into a turn, and if I wasn't inputting rudder, it would just kind of drag the tail, you know, nose up, nose high attitude, and drag the tail around. And I think that's another indication that it's a little tail heavy. So before I do anything else, the roll rate didn't look bad. I had a pretty good authority on the elevator. I haven't really tested the rudder yet for stall turns. I didn't want to try and perform one of those with it, you know, tail heavy. So the first thing I'm going to do is get that balance where I want it at 45 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing, and that might take care of everything else. So before I change anything else, I want to do that and then test that, not introduce multiple variables into the equation. So I'll get the balance the way I want it, take it back out, test it again, see if that takes care of the tail heavy condition. I might find that once that's done, making a turn bank and yak, it might go ahead and pull that nose around in a nice coordinated turn like the P51 performs, like the A1 Skyraider performs. I don't have to input rudder into those when I'm making my turns. I can just fly those bank and yank, and it makes a nice coordinated turn all on its own because they're balanced very well. So that's the issue that I'm going to try to solve before I take it back out. I wanted to give you a little additional information on it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to demonstrate as much power as it actually showed me. Now, I had 2 flights on it with my 3S 800 milliamp hour lipos of 25C, and they are performing better than my 950 3S lipos that are 25C. The 950s just are not supplying as much power anymore, as much amps. The 800s are only 2 grams lighter than the 950s, and so that's insignificant for the weight of this aircraft, the all-up weight of the aircraft. And I was able to pull much larger loops with authority and go vertical much further with authority with the 800 milliamp hour lipos than I was the 950s. I didn't get to show you those videos because I had traffic coming through at the time that I had the plane in the air with those 2 lipos. So I had to fly a lot of circuits. But anyway, the other information I wanted to give you was on, I took a fully charged lipo, ran it up to full throttle, pulled it back down to 50% throttle, and at 100% throttle it was pulling 14.2 amps, and at 50% throttle it was pulling 5.9 amps. So I think, I was flying around, when I was cruising around, I was about 50 to 60% throttle on this plane, and it was moving at a pretty good clip at 50 to 60% throttle. I was launching it, I would say between 60 to 65% throttle. I launched it a couple of times at 70% throttle, and it did produce a little bit of torque roll. It seems to take off nice and sweet at 60% throttle on hand launch, so that wasn't a problem. I think once I get the balance worked out on this, where it's not flying with a nose up attitude all the time, I think I will probably be able to cruise around at about 45% throttle rather than 50 to 60% throttle and save some battery. I did take the battery measurements. I had it in the air at one time when I had traffic going through. I had my timer set for 4 minutes. And so as soon as my flight timer went off, I started to come around to land, and I had walkers coming through. So I had it in the air for 5 minutes and 27 seconds. And I still had, what was it, 3.65 to 3.7 volts per cell, flying it the way I was flying it. Mixed mode flying, pretty hard in the throttle quite a bit, doing aerobatic maneuvers. So I would say with this plane, with a 3S 800 milliamp hour 25C lipo, flying it the way I was flying it, I think you're going to be able to get a good 6 minutes of flight time easy, leaving 3.6 volts per cell. So the next time I have it out, I'll set my flight timer for 5 minutes. That'll give me a minute in reserve, at least 1 minute in reserve. So it's not pulling, it's got one fewer blade on it than the A1 Skyraider. And I'm not sure if this motor is the same size. It's a higher kV, so it doesn't have quite as much torque. So it's pulling just a little bit less, a little fewer amps with this power system on this plane than the A1 Skyraider is. Of course, the A1 Skyraider is a bigger, heavier plane than this one is. But 6 minutes of flight time easy on this, on the A1 Skyraider. I'm going to be getting 7 around 7 minutes of flight time with it. So I think that's pretty respectable, 6 minutes of flight time with it. It's got good power, it's fairly efficient. I think it's going to be a really good plane once I get everything lined out. But I won't give you my conclusion on this until I get it lined out and get it flying as best as I can, and then I'll let you know if I think it's, you know, yeah, buy it, or maybe there's something better, you know.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the air.
Yeah!